Hi, I'm Shelby Hartman, DoubleBlind's co-founder.
And I'm Mary Carreón, DoubleBlind's editor-in-chief.
And today we're going to talk about how we've all been duped by Blue Lotus. I'm really interested to talk to you about this story, Mary, because I'm actually upset. I feel like I've been duped.
We've all been duped.
We've been duped.
We've all been duped.
So if you are really into psychedelics and or herbalism and other psychoactive plants, then you've more than likely come across a plant by the name of, we'll put it in quotes now, I suppose, Blue Lotus. Thank you for the quotes. And I'll show you what it looks like here, because I have some in my own at-home apothecary where I keep all kinds of psychoactive plants. So I'll show you what it looks like now, just because I actually have some of it in my at-home apothecary. And as you can see, it's a beautiful indigo flower that has a yellow, what do you call this part in the middle, Mary?
Oh, I don't know.
Whatever this part in the middle is. But it's a really beautiful flower. And typically when it's made as a tea or smoked, people pull the petals off and they use that part of the flower. So that's what that looks like. And I have really enjoyed cultivating a relationship with this plant, whatever it is, I'm not sure now.
It's still blue. I think it's still a blue lotus.
Okay.
Yeah, it's still a lotus and it's blue.
It's still a lotus that's blue over the last several years. And I'll just share a little bit about that and then let's get into the story.
Yeah.
So I was in Costa Rica and I was at a retreat center doing psilocybin, but at night they offered a Blue Lotus lucid dreaming workshop. And so, if you go to an apothecary or you go to like a crystal shop or even like some of these kind of sketchy shroom dispensary brick and mortars that are popping up around places like, the Venice Boardwalk and stuff now, like you'll see Blue Lotus, joints with Blue Lotus in them, Blue Lotus chocolate bars, Blue Lotus tinctures. And one of the things that it's supposed to do, allegedly, is help with lucid dreaming, but people also use it for, allegedly, anxiety. It's kind of like a mild sedative, basically.
Yeah. Yes, right. Exactly. And people say that when you take it in higher doses, it kind of has like an MDMA-ish, like a baby MDMA effect, MDMA light effect.
Yeah, there's Blue Lotus vape pens and tinctures, which is how you can get like a higher concentration of this particular plant.
Yes. And, I think so. A study came out through UC Berkeley for the Center of Psychedelics, and it was through a fellowship called the Flourish Fellowship. And again, this was in 2025, this information came out. And it was a student who got the fellowship. His name was Liam McAvoy, and he was watching a documentary when he was much younger, before he was ever a student at UC Berkeley, before he ever received the fellowship. And he saw in this documentary a bunch of people drinking the purple tea that this makes ultimately. And they started acting drunk, and it was allegedly from Egypt, and it stuck in his mind, in Liam's mind forever, basically, that like he was wondering, is this the same flower that the Egyptians actually used? And so that stuck in his mind, and he decided that he was going to investigate that when he got to UC Berkeley as an anthropology student. So he went about it in that way, and he got the fellowship, he applied, got it, and ultimately discovered through much investigation and through using mass spectrometry that the chemical constituents of this Blue Lotus versus what was actually used in Egypt, in ancient Egypt, are two separate flowers. Well, they're both called Blue Lotus, but they're different. So it's a different chemical compound that is supposed to be the psychoactive compound. However, I would like to say that if you have a relationship with this Blue Lotus, which is not toxic, like this flower is not toxic, we've all consumed it at this point, or many of us have. if you have a relationship with it, you should still maintain your relationship with it the way that you would maintain a relationship with rose or with chamomile or with rosemary or anything like that. But it's also important to know that it might not be the same flower as what was used in ancient Egypt.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting because we recently put out, well, it's available for pre-order now, but it'll be available for sale in April, the DoubleBlind Coffee Table book, which includes dosage information on a bunch of different psychedelics as well as our reporting. But in the beginning of the book, we have a section where we trace the history of psychoactive plants and psychedelics, going back to the ancient use of psychedelics. And if you go online and you say like, you know, when were the first people that used psychedelics or whatever your query is, right? What it's going to pull up is information on the ancient Greeks potentially using psychedelics in rituals, the ancient Israelites using psychoactive plants and psychedelics, cave paintings that have been that are in all parts, different kind, all across Mesoamerica that look like they could be mushrooms, which might have been psychoactive. And so, you know, we all want to believe, I mean, I want to say we all, I'll speak for myself.
No, many of us do.
That, you know, that the psychoactive plants and psychedelics we use have ancient history behind them, because it makes it feel like somehow it's more legitimate to be engaging in like a ritual or a relationship with them. And absolutely, we do actually know for a fact that psychoactive plants and psychedelics have been used forever
for a very
by
long
humans.
Time. Yeah.
But we don't know for sure, definitively, that the ancient Greeks used, I can't remember the name of the substance, it was like a psychoactive beverage of some kind that was supposed to be used in the Eleusinian mysteries.
Yeah, well, there's a few things. Like there's like, people maybe think that it's mad honey that also did that too. The Oracle of Delphi.
Right.
So, but we don't know.
Right. So we know, there are certain things we do know. Like we know, for example, that the Wirarica, or the Huichol people, who now live in modern day Mexico, have been utilizing peyote, a psychoactive cactus, in their rituals for more than 10,000 years.
Yes.
How do we know that? Because we have done testing on the ashes of the ceremonial fires that are in the desert that they walk across for their peyote ritual, right? We know that there are communities in the Amazon that have been utilizing psychoactive plants for thousands of years, because again, we found like little instruments that they used for the blowing of tobacco during rituals and things like that. But, you know, also, there's a lot of things people are saying out there that I even believed, as someone who founded DoubleBlind, that whoopsie, turns out to not be true.
Totally. And you know, what's interesting is that all of the effects that the blue lotus is supposed to give humans, us, is still true. None of that has changed. It's just not from this flower specifically, but it's from the original blue lotus. So none of that is changed. And so it's just kind of like a confusion around which flower it actually is and what's available and what's not. But yeah, it's really interesting. I felt duped. I have a lot of this blue lotus at home. I've smoked blue lotus. I've drank blue lotus. I've like given it to my friends, like, here, drink this. Let's get drunk off of blue lotus flower. And you know, now I'm like, oh, it's funny. It's like, you know, it's comical, and I think that we all kind of have to laugh at it and also be grateful for this new information. Like, I think being accepting of new information is also just as important as it's as important as consuming the right product in general, because ultimately it leads you down a path of like truth. And that is what we should all be aiming for, and not be defensive over new information. It helps us grow.
taking what people say about psychoactive plants and psychedelics kind of with a grain of salt. Like
Yes.
knowing that there are plants and psychedelics, like I said, that definitely have a storied indigenous use. There's other psychoactive plants and psychedelics that may or may not have been used for a very long time in indigenous communities. For example, like 5-MeO-DMT, people have tried to trace the origins of that and have not, there's no definitive evidence on whether or not that was or was not used for a very long time. That doesn't delegitimize the relationship that people are cultivating with these plants and with these medicines. But just holding the information lightly.
Yeah.
And also trusting yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I also think that our knowledge and everything that we are learning and everything we study and everything we set out into the world to know should always kind of be updated and evolving. It should never be static. And I think actually when it is static, that's kind of when we need to check ourselves a little bit. Also, that's what psychedelics kind of help us keep from happening. We consume psychedelics and it helps us remember that everything is always shifting and changing, and our knowledge, our repository of information that we know is also changing.
So Mary, if people want to read this report that was in the DoubleBlind newsletter, where do they go?
They go to doubleblindmag.com and you can search Blue Lotus on the website and this story will come up. The headline is, "We've all been duped by Blue Lotus."
And I also just want to give a shout out to Mary. If you've been watching our YouTube videos for a time, then you're probably used to seeing my face, and you may or may not have seen her face, but she has been reporting and editing and doing an amazing job on our newsletter, which is called The Drop-In and comes out a few times a week with news, but also with just education on how you can deepen your relationship with psychedelics. We'll put a link to that in the description of the video. And also, if you want to see more videos like this, like and subscribe.